For my Adaptive Professor project, I have chosen to read the published works of Veronica Herrera of the University of Connecticut Political Science Department. Professor Herrera is currently an assistant professor of political science here at the University of Connecticut and has been for 5 years. She received her BA in political science at Swarthmore College in 2003, graduating with high honors. Herrera then went on to receive both her MA and PhD at UC Berkeley, where she completed her studies in 2011. Her dissertation was titled Mayors, Markets, and Municipal Reform: The Politics of Water Delivery in Mexico. Going along with her dissertation, her work over the years has focused greatly on the politics of water services in Latin America. She has published several works in this field, including the ones I will be discussing here. Herrera's research discusses the effects of different policy on the public with relation to access to clean water and the forces which drove these policies to be created. Water policy and reform have been variable both in the forces that lead to them and the results produced. Professor Herrera analyzes the effects of these policies in relation to their goals and whether or not they have been effective in achieving said goals. The 3 pieces of published works that I will be reading for this are titled, Does Commercialization Undermine the Benefits of Decentralization for Local Services Provision? Evidence for Mexico's Urban Water and Sanitation Sector. This was published in April of 2014. Another piece of writing is titled, Can Developing Countries Both Decentralize and Depoliticize Urban Water Services? Evaluating the Legacy of the 1990s Reform Wave. This was published in December of 2014. The third and final piece of writing which I read is titled Water and Politics, Clientelism and Reform in Urban Mexico. This is actually a manuscript which is currently under contract to be published as a book in 2017 by the University of Michigan Press. Dr. Herrera's methods include extensive review of IFI policy documents, primary sources from a range of countries, and academic publications. She uses these sources to analyze specific cases and aggregate data. She also uses something called process tracing to help sequence a sort of chain of events of decentralizing and depoliticizing policies. Her research gathered evidence for this process through field research, 180 in-depth field interviews, data collection from internal government documents, and newspaper articles and archival material. Much of Herrera's work focuses on the relationship between decentralization and depoliticization. Decentralization refers to a shift in governance of any sector from federal control to a more local or state governments. In Herrera's research, decentralization refers to the transfer of water service governance to state and local governments as an attempt to better reflect citizen preferences and improve local services. Herrera's research uses the term depoliticization to refer to neoliberal reforms to shift management of water systems from the public sector to the private sector. Herrera also refers to these reforms as insulating reforms, with the alleged goal of preventing interference in service provision by elected officials through privatization or corporatization. Reforms for both depoliticization and decentralized happened simultaneously. This gave local governments newfound responsibility over services which were transitioning from public management to private management. She studies this through an example of Mexican cities in both of her publications. Professor Herrera's findings are that commercialization has actually conflicted with citizen preferences in many cases, and it has in fact increased social backlash and tension surrounding public utilities. In Herrera's own words, decentralization may exacerbate regional inequalities and be captured by local elites or be hampered by local level corruption. However, Herrera acknowledges that some of the literature speaks favorably about decentralizing policies, linking the success levels of decentralization with local leadership and not with decentralization itself. Clearly, the topic is as complex as it seems. Her December 2014 publication found that although citizen participation in political issues regarding water and sanitation services does increase with decentralization, this participation increases pressure to focus on short-term benefits for consumers rather than long-term sustainability and development. Professor Herrera has won many awards and grants for her research. She was recently awarded a SHARE grant for undergraduate research with an incredible undergraduate researcher assistant named Renata Muguerza. Professor Herrera's research continues, and she was recently awarded Junior Enhancement Faculty Fellowship from the Woodrow Wilson National Fellowship Foundation to pursue research on a second book project, which will focus on the politics of sewage treatment and sanitation in urban areas around Latin America.